most investors in fixed income mutual funds are recent converts from fixed deposits.
Did you foresee, or how come you are sticking to AAA, although it could yield less? Namaste viewers, and today we are going to have an interview with Mr. Suyash Chowdhury, Head Fixed Income of IDFC Mutual Fund. Suyash is heading the Fixed Income Division of IDFC Mutual Fund. He currently oversees assets close to 1 lakh crore, and not to be exact, 98,000 crore of debt fund assets across various categories in IDFC Mutual Fund. IDFC Fund House as a whole manages 1,26,000 crores of assets. And Suyash is with IDFC for the past 10 plus years. Prior to that, he was with HSBC AMC and Standard Chartered AMC. And prior to that, I think he was with Deutsche Bank. And he has completed his MBA or postgraduate diploma from IIM Calcutta and BA Honors Economics from Delhi University. Particularly, he is known for his conviction and his conviction, particularly with high quality, high grade securities, debt securities. It could be sovereign bonds or AAA securities, whatever. And his call, has gone right last year, particularly last year when this pandemic broke out, and there were fund houses who had held lesser, credit rating portfolios, and there was some issues with those portfolios. So IDFC came out with the flying colors. Now, let us directly hear from Suyash. Suyash, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me today.
Yeah, Suyash, and generally, let me ask with the very, in the industry circle, IDFC is known for AAA portfolio. Generally, most of your funds. So, and even SEBI is thinking of formulating or kind of going in that route of late. In the sense, mutual funds should have only high quality tradable securities. That is the thought from the SEBI side as well, the regulator side as well. So how come did you foresee, or how come you are sticking to AAA, although it could yield less?
So it's a very important question to ask, and I'm happy to be able to answer that. There are at least two reasons why we prefer quality for the most part. The first has to do with the stage of evolution of investor expectation itself. So if you were to think about it, most investors in fixed income mutual funds are recent converts from fixed deposits. So they come with a certain sort of risk profile. Mm-hmm. And many times they may themselves not understand that is their risk profile, because, as they say, when the going is good, that is when you actually think that you have a higher risk appetite than you actually do. And a related aspect of this first point also is that why do you traditionally do fixed income? You do fixed income to get some counter cyclicality in your asset allocation table. So, you should have assets that do well when the economic and financial market cycle is booming. And you should have assets that give you some safety, some nest egg, some running income when economic cycle and financial market cycles are not doing well. Mm-hmm. And it's really quality fixed income that can give you that safety. So this is the first point, which is investor expectation, given that there's still a relatively nascent move towards fixed income mutual funds from fixed deposits. And the fundamental reason why you do fixed income is largely for safety and counter cyclicality. The other reason is, look at the stage of evolution of our financial market itself. So mutual fund products are pass-through vehicles, as you know. Mm-hmm. So, you will invest your money. I will buy some securities against that money. At some juncture, you will want your money back. You will put a redemption request in, and I have to sell the security and return your money. So it's a very simple format. And therefore, it relies on my ability to provide your money back on my ability to be able to sell the asset that I'm holding. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at India's fixed income market, liquidity in the secondary market is very good for government bonds. it's good for AAA bonds. But as you go lower down the credit curve, the liquidity almost starts to vanish. So you have, reasonable liquidity in good quality, let's say AA names, but it is not uniform across all such names. So this point, basically addresses the fact that you can only design products on a public market platform, which is what mutual funds are, if you are able to execute inflow and outflow with minimum impact cost and not get caught with an illiquid portfolio if the tide were to turn. And this is something, so, it's not that, we caught something last year. Our philosophy is basis, these two pillars or these two thoughts with respect to the stage of evolution of both, client expectations as well as liquidity in the marketplace, and a fundamental overarching theme that you broadly do fixed income for safety and counter cyclicality. So these are the themes which have driven our approach to fixed income over a very long period of time. And it's not as if we have, changed anything last year and, we are very great at capturing some of these themes, not at all. So I would not want to take undue credit where it does not belong to us. It is just that this is the philosophy that we have followed for these reasons.
That is true. That is true. Because, where, generally people appreciate IDFC, I mean, at this juncture is, so like until prior to that, people were chasing yields. Generally, they were all chasing yield. Someone is giving X%, someone is giving X plus 1, 2%, X plus 3%. So the basis of choosing a fund, even among the advisor community, anywhere you go, in general, I'm talking. So, and India is a country, and the people are known for it. Wherever we get something extra, we want to chase it. Wherever we get something at a lesser price, we want to chase it. Nothing wrong either way. So we are kind of bargain hunters. So, and when you have done that for quite long, and it has proven at some point of time, then only people start understanding the importance of it. I agree with you. And it is not a one-day effort or all of a sudden you captured it. It is over a period of time you have been following continuously, meticulously, and that turned out good, past the...
There is just one thing I would mention. I agree with you that people typically like more returns. But remember also, this is not necessarily the philosophy that most people follow when they choose bank deposits, as an example. Right? So the largest and the safest banks have also, very large deposit bases because, people want safety first. It is when they choose mutual fund products, when, this thirst for higher yield historically we have seen has been over the need for safety. And not to say that mutual fund should be considered like deposits. They are not, because mutual funds cannot guarantee any sort of returns. They are open-ended products, and we have to pass through, whatever the performance of the securities is to the end investor. But our request always has been that they should treat mutual fund products as they look at in context of the risk appetite that they have, because otherwise the chase for carry will never end. And this is one of the reasons why we had devised our liquidity core satellite approach towards fixed income asset allocation. Because one of the things that we also found over the last 5 years is that people's allocation into fixed income was not basis any sort of an asset allocation table. It was very much like what you are saying, that the higher return funds were winning, right? Which means that you had basically no control over the kind of risk that you were taking. And, at some juncture or the other in a cycle, the trigger could be anything. But, economic cycles follow that boom bust. Financial market cycles follow that boom bust. And sometime or the other in a 5-10 year cycle, you will be faced with the risk that you have taken. So again, remember, mutual fund products are pass-through vehicles. They are not like fixed deposits. They cannot guarantee returns. And therefore, you have to be that much more careful when you choose mutual fund products.
True. Indeed. Generally, senior citizens or people who cannot afford to take risk much in general. So now they are looking for something, either equivalent to bank deposits or something little better than bank deposits, because debt mutual funds has an edge over deposits in the sense the taxation rates over and above 3 years comes under long-term capital gains. So people benefit out of it. So what they look at is, okay, let me at least get, at least the bank deposit or a little above that. So for that kind of investors, the current scenario, as we are seeing, where liquidity is very high and money is flowing like anything from government side everywhere, the percentage we are looking at is like liquid funds and all 3.5%, 4%, which is lower than many of the bank deposits which are offered for 6 months, 1 year with some 5 lakh guarantee, etc., etc. And some banks do offer, higher rates as well. Small finance banks, they carry higher risk, but they offer higher risk, higher return as well. So where do you see? I mean, where do you see this classification of mutual fund for investors between FDs or little higher income products and mutual at this juncture particularly? Because earlier it was not so. Mutual funds were always in general were giving little higher, 0.25%, 0.5%, whatever. Even a liquid fund was giving 7%, I remember. So many of the funds, 6.5%, 7% equivalent to it. So should investors classify themselves between a mutual fund and a deposit, or going forward the returns will be lower only? What is your thought here?
So let me, briefly explain our fixed income allocation framework, because that will help answer some of these questions. Mm-hmm. See, we think about fixed income in 3 buckets of products, which we call liquidity, core, and satellite. Now, these buckets are actually mapped to your investment needs. So liquidity bucket is basically for your cash management needs, wherein you buy products like overnight fund or liquid fund. Mm-hmm. Now, it's probably wrong to think of these as investment products. These are cash management products. So you would ordinarily not want to have too much money in overnight or liquid fund, only that extent that you want for your liquidity requirements.
True.
The investment buckets in fixed income mutual funds, therefore, are 2, core and satellite. Mm-hmm. Now, remember again that mutual funds cannot guarantee returns. The only way they can control risk is by controlling the 2 risks that you take largely in fixed income investing, which is credit and duration risk, right? So the philosophy of core bucket of products is that you control the amount of duration and credit risk that you are taking in those bucket of products. So there, we would classify from our stable. So, you should not just go by the name, because under the same scheme name, different funds may have different strategies. But on our platform, products like low duration, ultra short, money market fund, short-term fund, corporate banking fund, corporate bond fund, PSU banking fund, and medium-term fund. Mm-hmm. So these are products where the average maturity typically ranges indicatively between, let's say, 6 months and 5 years. Mm-hmm. And the product profile is biased towards the highest quality. Now, depending upon the minimum investment horizon you have, so suppose, let's say you have a 6-month minimum investment horizon, then you may choose a money market or a low duration product. If you have, let's say, a 3-year investment horizon, you could choose a medium-term product within the category of products we have. But these are all core bucket products because they are taking constrained amount of duration and credit risk. And ordinarily, we suggest that 60 to 70% of your allocations as a conservative fixed income investor should go into the core bucket. Now, the next bucket is the satellite bucket, where we offer products that can take higher amount of duration or credit risk. Mm-hmm. So your credit risk fund, your government bond oriented products, so like dynamic bond fund or gilt funds, which take higher amount of duration risk, are all in this bucket of products. Ordinarily, you should not invest more than 20-30% of your total allocation in satellite bucket. So if you think about fixed income mutual fund investing through this lens of asset allocation, some of these questions get self-answered. So how much of a credit risk fund should I buy? The answer is it's a satellite bucket product. It takes higher amount of credit risk. You should restrict your total exposure to not more than 20-30%, right? So this is how you should look at mutual fund products. And our endeavor over a period of time has been to construct products that you can slot as either core or satellite. In fact, our request to you would be that you ask more mutual funds to classify products like these so that it helps you choose in line with the risk appetite that you have. Now, so if you're a core bucket of products, it's not that it has full safety because it is an open-ended product still and it cannot be guaranteed. But because there is a constrained amount of duration and credit risk, the outcomes are likely to be consistent with your risk profile. Now, your other question about bank deposits versus mutual fund products at this juncture. Now, there are 2-3 aspects you have to keep in mind. First, you have to measure the appropriate tenure of bank deposit with the appropriate maturity product in the fixed income domain. Mm-hmm. So, for example, let's say a 2-year bank deposit, the risk profile of a short-term bond fund, which runs around 2-year maturity, would be more consistent with that, right? But obviously, the advantage of bank deposit is that returns are guaranteed, give or take. I mean, at least to a threshold. In the mutual fund, there is no such thing. But the advantage of the mutual fund is, like you said, taxation benefit. Second, very importantly, liquidity benefit. So, you may invest at a particular point in time, but you may get needs in between and you may need to withdraw. So that's the advantage of a mutual fund. The other aspect I would say is that compare like to like. So, for example, if you're comparing a small finance bank, like you said, it's a lower rated, bank, and therefore it's probably a satellite bucket allocation for you. So you can apply the same core satellite approach to even your bank FD selection. That core bucket of banks would be your AAA banks, and your satellite allocation could be the smaller banks where you are investing for higher yield. So the philosophy can actually be applied across instruments, be it mutual fund or fixed deposits. And the last point is, it's not necessary you have to come to a mutual fund. So, for example, if you're a senior citizen, if you have no taxation compulsions and you don't require that money, you are reasonably confident you don't require the money, you may very well choose the bank deposit. Right. So we are not here to say that at every juncture, for every class of investor, at every point in time, the mutual fund is a better product. No. Right. But you have to apply this principle. You have to compare apples to apples, and then you should be okay.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like senior citizens, they have many, government sponsored schemes like senior citizen savings scheme, Vaya Vandana Yojana, a lot of those schemes which offer very attractive rates like 7.4% guaranteed government backed. So that should be their first choice. As you rightly said, if they don't have taxation, it would be the great first place to go. And then they come for liquidity, some investments here, and for longer taxation purpose, something here. That I fully agree with you. And as we speak, what is the outlook for debt funds in the next 1 to 3 years? Why I am asking you this is, we have been expecting that the interest rates should go up. But for the last few years, it has not been going up. So there is, a school of thought it will go up. So when it is likely to go up, I have duration risk. We cannot go with duration calls and all of a sudden investor sees some negativity, then he says that because in India, as you know, most of the retail investors are not seasoned to duration risk. They understand stock market very well. Stock market can erode everything, but they cannot digest a debt instrument can go down. So that's why I'm asking, the outlook for the next 1 to 3 years is the interest rate will rise, or you expect more of softening thing? How is the outlook?
So when we talk about interest rates, we also have to specify, which end of interest rates are we talking about. So, for example, the RBI's policy rate today is at 3.35%. A 5 to 6 year government bond rate today is somewhere between 5.75 to 6%. So remember, overnight rate is at 335. But a 5 to 6 year government bond is very close to 6%. Right? So we have to be careful which end of the interest rate are we talking about. So the 335 is going to go up. It has been delayed because of this unfortunate second wave of COVID. So earlier we would have thought that RBI will start to normalize the 335 by June, July. Now we think probably they will start normalizing by October, December. So that is one end of the interest rate curve. But as the RBI lifts the 335, does the 575 also go up by the same amount as the 335 goes up? Probably not. Right? So the question you have to ask yourself is not that interest rates are going to go up. Of course, they are going to go up. But suppose, let's say you're buying 5-year at 575, just as an example, whereas the overnight rate is 335. The difference between the two is 2.4, 575 minus 335, which translates into 2 rupees 40 paisa per year. So the question you have to ask yourself is, how much do interest rates need to go up so that this 2 rupees 40 paisa that I'm earning more than the overnight rate entirely goes away? You understand what I'm saying?
True.
So in technical parlance, what we say in markets is that the yield curve is very steep, which means that the difference between the overnight and 5-year today is very large. So even if you have a view that interest rates are going to go up, and that is the view we have as well, as long as your view is that they will go up gently, you can still afford to invest in, let's say, 3 to 4 year kind of maturity products or 3 to 5 year kind of maturity products, which are, high quality products with a 3-year plus investment horizon. The important point, however, to remember is that we are at a juncture in the economic cycle where rates are low and they will rise over a period of time. We are at a juncture in the economic cycle where the saver is not as important as the consumer. Because economic growth is very low, we may actually have slightly excess savings in the system. And therefore, what the RBI is trying to incentivize is that by bringing down cost of money, people should consume more, people should make more real investments. Now, there will come a time in a couple of years maybe when the saver becomes important again. So the other point that we have to, we all like to listen to global investors like Warren Buffett, etc., but we don't learn patience from them. We don't learn to think about markets in long-term cycles. So once you realize this very basic fact that we are at a point in the cycle where saver is not as important, but this point will change. So what you have to basically figure out is that you spend the next couple of years adapting to a low return scenario, but ensuring that you don't make mistakes in this scenario. And how do you make mistakes? You stretch your risk appetite. You say that, 5% is too low for me. Show me something which is 7%. Not realizing that that is not actually your risk appetite. Your risk appetite may be worth 5% only. So why not control what you can control, which is the person you are, and let the market, which is not your controllable, do its own trick. So the market may give you 5, it may give you 4, it may give you 6. That is not something that you and I can control. But what you and I can control is how much risk can I carry on the money that I have to invest. The tragedy in fixed income over the last 4 or 5 years has been that this one controllable, we have lost control of. So the one thing we could have control was the amount of risk we want to carry, but we let it loose. Right? And that is what came back to hurt us over the last couple of years as an industry.
Yeah. I understand that completely. I understand that. And I am with you that, particularly in mutual funds, particularly mutual funds when it's a pass-through vehicle kind of thing. So it should be more liquidity-oriented papers and more high-quality oriented papers that will, the risk versus the returns. That is the thing. So we should have less risk and.
So one thing I'll tell you, till a few years back, some investors were under the impression that if you are investing in a large mutual fund, they will bail you out. Right? They will not allow your capital to get lost. And it was, very bothersome to us when we used to hear things like those, because as you know, mutual funds are pass-through vehicles. They cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, they cannot guarantee your returns. And yet this was the expectation till 3 or 4 years back.
True.
So I'm at least happy on one thing, that because of these, ugly episodes that have happened over the last couple of years, at least people have understood the basic structure of a mutual fund. That it cannot guarantee returns, it cannot protect your capital. The only way I can structure products is by containing the amount of risk in various profiles of investment. So credit risk fund is supposed to take more credit risk. But a short-term bond fund positioned in the core bucket product profile should not be taking that much credit risk. So our job is to create these products of different risk profiles, to bucket them in the right place in the asset allocation table. But for you as the advisor, the job is to respect that bucketing, and not, by you I mean the general community, is to respect the bucketing and not get excessively swayed by this chase for returns, irrespective of what your risk profile is.
True. This does not happen only in debt funds. This happens in equity funds also. Say, like in the last 1 year, small caps are flying. So everyone wants to invest in small cap, irrespective of their understanding. This is across the board, I would say. Say, like, even I hear from some of the investors, can I do a PE investment?
I see.
So there is no end to it. As a person, so generally they ask, I'm okay, I have some 25-50 lakhs, I can allocate separately, I lose or win, that's fine, but as long as it gives me very high returns. So this is something common with investors. We have to nudge their kind of expectation and tell them. Again, we have to tell about private equity. You have to invest 10-25 lakhs, not 125 lakhs. You have to invest 10-25 lakhs so that 3 of them becomes a big success, and 5 of them goes bust. 2 of them are so. So that is the thing.